Welcome back to Hearthstone, everybody. My name is Maxwell, and today we are going to take a look at the basic Druid deck. We've gone through that many so far. We've got the Druid, we have the Rogue, and then we have the Shaman to go after this. So let's, without further ado, let's get straight into the deck itself. So right at the beginning we have Innovate. 0 mana, gain 2 mana crystals this turn only. That thing is absolutely brilliant, except when you hold on to it too long and you get to 10 mana and you're only drawing 1 card a turn and there isn't really anything you can spend it on. But at the start, it combos brilliantly with some things. Especially if, say, on turn 1 you draw Innovate and you summon a 3 mana creature straight off the bat. There are some other combos which I'll get into as we go over some of the other cards. But basically, Innovate, it's a must-have. Next, we have Moonfire, deal 1 damage for 0 mana, so absolutely brilliantly mana efficient. You might think, well, 1 damage, what can you really do with that? But a lot of some creatures do. I mean, we've got the Wolf Rider in here, which is a 3 attack, 1 health creature. So there are some creatures with 1 health, but the plus side of this is a Druid spell power deck. So you get yourself a Kobold Geomancer and a Dalaran Mage out, and it's suddenly a 3 damage spell for 0 mana. What I would recommend with this is keep it for creature clearing. Keep it for basically evening out the board, so hold on to it until there's a creature that you want to get rid of. Unless you're either way ahead or it's doing 3 or 4 damage and the enemy your opponent doesn't really have any creatures that you're particularly bothered about killing. Say he's got a 2-1 and you've got your Sen'jin Shieldmaster out anyway, and the Moonfire is doing 3 or 4 damage, then just do it straight to his face. Next we have Mark of the Wild, absolutely brilliant card here. Give a minion taunt and +2/+2. Makes other things very, very dangerous. We'll skip this one and just go on to the Kobold Geomancer because I can talk about that combo. The Kobold Geomancer, obviously a 2/2 for 2 mana with a spell damage of +1. This being the spell damage deck and only being a basic deck, you're pretty limited on the spell damage cards you can choose, so you've basically got to take all of them. So we have the Kobold Geomancer. But one of the best draws you can have in this game is Innovate, Mark of the Wild, and a Kobold Geomancer, because on turn number 1, if you're going second, you can play the Coin, the Geomancer, Innovate, and Mark of the Wild, and have a 4/4 taunt on your first turn. What I would say, though, is try and hold on to Mark of the Wild until the turn you actually want to attack. So I would recommend actually putting the Geomancer out, and then in the next turn, putting Mark of the Wild on him just before you attack, unless you need that taunt and the hit points because the opponent's put something weird out, or you're playing against a warrior who's likely to have charge cards. So, skipping back a little bit, we go to Wild Growth, gain an empty mana crystal. There's only one of these in this deck, and that's just because it's not super useful. Yeah, gaining an empty mana crystal can put you ahead in the mana curve against your opponent, but it costs 2 mana as well. But also bear in mind that if you save this card until turn 10 or after, and you play it when you've got 10 mana, it gets used up, and then it gives you another card which lets you draw a card for 0 mana, with the reasoning something like you may only have 10 mana. So basically for 2 mana, this card becomes a 2 mana draw a card. So can sometimes be worth holding on to it if you're not too bothered about getting ahead in the mana curve. And the other one card we have is Savage Roar, which is basically a mini Bloodlust, 3 mana, and give your characters +2 attack this turn. Bear in mind that it does say characters and not minions, so that does count towards your hero itself as well, so your hero also gets +2 attack, so bear that in mind. Suggestion I would make is you can go for one of each of Wild Growth or Savage Roar, or you can take out a Wild Growth and go for 2 Savage Roars, or take out 1 Savage Roar and go for 2 Wild Growths. It's up to you really, that one is personal preference, but to be honest I like having the versatility of having one of each. Next we come on to the Dalaran Mage. 3 mana for a 1/4 with spell damage +1. This thing, coupled with Mark of the Wild, is again also pretty damn powerful, because you suddenly get a 3/6 with taunt and spell damage +1, so that can be pretty damn good. Next we come on to the Shattered Sun Cleric, a mainstay in most basic decks. 3 mana for a 3/3, which gives a friendly minion +1/+1. Very useful for buffing up your kill minions, the ones that are designed to knack stuff, or pretty good for buffing up your spell power minions, your spell damage minions, to keep them alive even longer. Next we come on to the Wolf Rider, 3 mana for a 3/1 with charge. Again, this is used more as direct damage and creature removal, or just surprise damage straight to your opponent's face. Because basically it's 3 damage direct. It's 3 mana direct damage if they don't have a taunt out. So you plonk him down, and it's basically just, it surprises the opponent. Not many people expect a Druid deck to have creatures with charge in, so you can kind of catch people off guard. They bring something out like an Iron Fur Grizzly, you plonk this guy down and just kill him in 1 turn. Or, if you draw Innovate on your first turn, you can play Innovate this guy and then have 3 damage straight to your opponent's face without them realising it's coming. Next we come on to Swipe. Brilliant card, this one. 4 mana for 4 damage to an enemy and 1 damage to all other enemies. So very, very good there, especially because it is boosted by spell damage. So if you've, say, got 2 Kobold Geomancers or a Geomancer and a Mage out, it suddenly becomes a 6 damage to 1 enemy and 3 damage to all other enemies. So pretty much just becomes a Fireball and Flame Strike all rolled into 1. Just bear in mind that if you do tend to have 2 or 3 spell damage creatures out there, that the 4 damage from the other enemy's part is probably enough to kill most things he has on the board. So you can generally just do the 6 or 7 damage directly to the hero, because this can be cast directly onto the opponent, onto their hero. Next we come on to Chillwind Yeti. You know my opinion on this guy. 4 mana for a 4/5, very strong stats for a basic card. Then we come on to the Ogre Magi, 4 mana for a 4/4 with +1 spell damage. Like I said, you're limited on spell damage with basic cards, so you basically have to take all of them if you are going full spell damage. Excuse me. Next we come on to the Sen'jin Shieldmaster, because Sen'jin Shieldmaster, 4 mana for a 3/5 with Taunt, can't say fairer than that. Next we have Starfire, 6 mana, deals 5 damage and draws a card, and this thing's obviously boosted by spell damage, so it can be a sneaky bit of extra pop to the face. Again, a couple of spell damage creatures out, you could be doing 7, 8, sometimes 9 damage if the enemy's allowed the board to get a little bit out of control. The other thing is, people don't really expect these big damages, like with the Mage with Pyroblast that does 10 damage. People don't generally expect it, so some people might sit behind a wall of taunts with 4 or 5 or 6 health and think that they're particularly safe, whereas you can just cast this, boom, they're dead. And even if you don't kill the enemy, it's great for creature removal, and the draw card part is pretty damn good. And the deck's not focused around drawing cards, but drawing cards is always good. It's never really a bad thing. Next we come on the Archmage. It's 6 mana for a 4/7 with +1 spell damage. Again, the health, the attack on this thing isn't great for the mana cost, but the health is brilliant. 7 hit points is generally a lot for people to get through around about turn 6 or 7 when you hopefully are summoning this guy. The only other suggestion I would make is you can sometimes take this guy out if you feel you don't want to go full spell damage. Excuse me. If you feel you don't want to go full spell damage, take this guy out and then put in maybe something like the Grubashi Berserker. I'll just go ahead and show you that guy instead. This guy here. So if you don't feel like having all the spell damage, if you don't feel like it's working for you, then maybe take out the Archmage here and put in the Grubashi Berserker instead. Or maybe Lord of the Arena if you feel like you're lacking in taunts. But we're about to get onto the Taunt King next. A Darkscale Healer can be a good substitute for the Archmage if you feel like you need a little bit more healing for yourself and minions. Or what you can do is take out both Archmages, put in 1 Grubashi Berserker and 1 Darkscale Healer if you feel you need it. But to be honest, if you're going for spell power, you should really go full spell power. And finally, our last card is the Iron Bark Protector. You get this for reaching level 10 with the Druid. It's 8 mana for an 8/8 with Taunt, and this thing is just scary. I mean, yeah, if you go up against a Priest or a Rogue and they have something which is just kill target minion, then it's not really that great. But just an 8/8 with taunt slapped down on the board is enough to scare a lot of people. And that is our big creature basically for this deck. It's 8 mana, but it's great. So if we have a look at the mana curve, nothing at 1 mana, but to be honest, the 2/0 mana stuff we have in there kind of makes up for it. It's got a very natural mana curve, which is what you should have. Slopes up in the centre up to 4 mana, and then slopes back down at 7+. Misses out 1 and 5, but that's not really important considering we have the 6s and the 4s to make up for it, and the 0s and the 2s to make up for the lack of 1s. Oh yes, and the Druid's hero power is +1 attack and +1 armor. But if you notice, it says +1 attack this turn and +1 armor. So at the end of your turn, your +1 attack fades away, but the armor stays. So it can be a good idea if you've got 2 spare mana, even if you don't intend attacking, use your hero power just to stack up that armor and mitigate some damage later on in the game. So that's going to be it for the Druid basic deck. We're going to go ahead and get into a match or two, depending on how long this part of the video was and how long the matches last. And hopefully we can see exactly how the deck plays in a real game situation. And this deck does tend to be a little bit hit and miss, more so than other decks. I mean, because obviously not all decks are created equal, not all heroes are equal in this game yet. Probably never will be, to be honest. If we know what balancing a PvP based game is like, then they're probably never going to be equal. But you tend to either get a really good start, where you can get like a 4/4 taunt out on turn 1, or you get a little bit shafted and then you just end up 2 or 3 turns behind your opponent, or you just go up against a priest where if you don't kill them or if you don't kill them within something like 10 turns, then you lose because it's a priest, and that's the way that they work. Did I just draw exactly the same creatures again there? That's a bit shit. Right, let's see what we get turn 1. If it's nothing good, then I'm going to coin and kobold. Any day now, Mr. Warlock. There isn't many choices when you've got 1 mana. There we go. Next turn we'll armor up. Turn after that we'll get a charge and then a taunt. Although I think I've warned about planning too far in advance in one of my other videos, that if you plan too far in advance or get that plan stuck in your head too much, when the enemy does something, your opponent does something that you really should react to, you generally don't, because you've got the plan that you'd already worked out stuck in your head. And that's not a good thing.
For the wild.
So we're just gonna go like that, I think. Yeah, seems fair enough to me. Now, is this going to be a Warlock Murloc deck? Because I haven't come up against one of these yet. I hear a lot of people talking about Warlock Murloc decks, but I've never actually played against one. Yes it is. I think this is going to be, after I've done all of the basic decks for all of the characters, for all the heroes, that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to do a showcase of Warlock Murloc deck. What do we have? We have 3 mana, so we could get out the guy with charge. Do we get out the Shattered Sun Cleric? I think the guy with charge. Because the Murloc decks, from what I've seen, seem to be rush decks. They get as many Warlocks out as possible. Did I say Warlocks or Murlocs? You'd imagine a Murloc summoning Warlocks. They get as many Murlocs out as possible, as quickly as possible. Oh, well, that's a little bit of a graphical bug up there. And try and overrun you. Try and basically race your health down with them. I have 4 mana, so I can probably just go ahead and... will that... yeah, the incidental damage will get everybody else. That's the thing, if someone wants to do a health race against this Druid deck, then that's fair enough, because it can generally keep up in those situations. If somebody hasn't got loads of taunts or something really annoying, like I said, you can generally, in a health race situation, you can do pretty well. Just want to bear in mind,
We must cleanse the Sunwell.
Doesn't really matter who I buff. Giving this guy an extra 1 health isn't really going to make that much difference, to be honest, so I may as well buff him up to give him an extra health. And now he's got to do a little bit of board clear or he's dead. Because the race didn't really work. I'm not sure if it is a Murloc deck now, to be honest, because he's had a few beasts out. Oh, there we go, keeping himself alive at least. So that's probably going to kill that. Well, it has to, or else I kill him. Yep, there we go. Oh, there we go, he's cleared the board and healed himself. So now we are reset. What do I have? Innovate, which gives me 8 mana. I think I'll put out Chillwind Yeti and Ascension Shieldmaster. And if he doesn't kill both, well, if he doesn't kill at least one of those this turn, then it's game over. Because I can do 7 damage with them and 1 damage with me. Oh, Baron Geddon. Oh, he's not even going to let me wait. Not even going to let me go for it. He's just going to concede. Ah, well. But GG, that is basically... I know that was a bit of a fast game, but that's basically how the deck goes. If you go up against somebody who wants to rush health down like that, you're probably going to win in that situation because you've got the card set up to do it, basically. So I hope you have found this video useful and enjoyed watching the game. If you did find it useful, don't forget to hit that like or favourite button. If you found it very useful and you want to see more deck guides in the future and more Hearthstone content, then please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Leave me a comment in the comment section below letting me know exactly what you thought or asking any questions you may have. I have been Maxwell, this has been Hearthstone, and I will catch you guys next time.